Coming up, one of the 80s best hit songwriters created the perfect song for an up-and-coming rookie. When this rookie heard this song, she absolutely loved it. She knew it was a hit. And then came the music video. And even though it would rule MTV, she loathed it. She loved the song, hated the video. Find out why from both the artist and the songwriter in our exclusive interview coming up about this song next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. We interview the great artists of the rock and roll era, and you never know what you're going to see from day to day, so make sure that you subscribe below by hitting the red button, click the little bell, so you never miss out. And don't forget to check out our exclusive content on Patreon, as well as our live event, Sammy Hagar, Professor of Rock Live. Tickets are below. Here we go. I'm excited to bring you yet another episode from our series, Revelations. This is where featured artists go deep, very deep into their greatest songs and their albums with little-known stories that you won't hear anywhere else. Today, we're going to take the time machine back to 1984, where an up-and-coming rookie followed up a promising EP with her first album. Well, to be precise, the band was actually called Scandal, featuring Patty Smyth. The album was flung into the charts by the number 7 smash, The Warrior. The Warrior was written by blockbuster songwriting sensation Holly Knight, who wrote scores of hits in the 80s. I mean, she wrote hits for Heart, Pat Benatar, Tina Turner, many more. It was also written by 70s alum Nick Gilder, whose 1978 song Hot Child in the City went to number 1. Hot Child in the City. Coming up, both Patty Smyth and Holly Knight tell the story of this 80s classic, including the challenge of the music video, which Patty absolutely hated, even though it ruled MTV. Not long after The Warrior was a smash, Patty was asked by Eddie Van Halen to replace David Lee Roth. As we go into it, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, my favorite frames ever. Go design your own pair with digital blue light protection at Zenni.com. Here's the story of The Warrior on Revelations. Tell me about The Warrior. How did you get the song and how did that all come about?
I didn't feel any pressure at all when we went in to do The Warrior. I again was a new writer, so all those songs on there that I wrote were the first songs that I wrote. After Goodbye to You and Another Bad Love or whatever, my EPs. Goodbye to you. Goodbye to you. We wrote Beat of a Heart. Beat of a Heart. When they brought The Warrior, I was like, this is how Mike Chapman wrote a lot with Holly Knight. Mike Chapman was not somebody who would try to, maybe he wanted to get his songs released as singles, later on, but he just was like, I have this song. I think it's a good song for you. He played me the song. I'm like, I think you're right. I want to do it. And that was it. So we recorded that. And I believe he also played me Love is a Battlefield. That was supposed to be my next record or something, but I got pregnant and I didn't do my next record with him, interestingly enough. But I remember listening to Love is a Battlefield.
He wrote that with Holly Knight.
It's a great song. I mean, they wrote some great songs. Mike Chapman's a great writer, great producer. Holly Knight's a great writer. So there wasn't any, I didn't have any, I had not even a slight hesitation on that song. It was like, I don't know why. I just sometimes I should probably pause and think, but on that particular instance, I knew that was a song that I was gonna, and I wanted to, do it, and I wanted to do it great for Mike Chapman. He had worked with all these other big singers, so I wanted to please him. I was like, I'll show you what I can do with this song, and that's a good place to be at. When you're trying to impress your producer, you're trying to sing as best as you can, and so he got really good performances out of me because of that, I think. Because I had a lot of respect for him.
What do you remember about recording it? What stands out to you?
Oh God, it was such a crazy time in my life. I broke up with a guy I'd been with for years, and I came in the studio one day and I was crying. I couldn't sing because crying messes up your singing, and I kind of just remember, I guess the thing I remember particularly about recording Goodbye to You is that we needed, like, everybody in the studio. Like we had, Tommy and Keith, and I don't know if Zach was there. We got like the engineers. We pulled people in off the street to sing the backgrounds, it's like we wanted to sound like lumberjacks. Like it's a very big background chorus going on. So I just remember sort of pulling people in from other studios, just trying to get as big a crowd as we could, and then doubling it and singing it over and over and over again. And I think that's that's the memory I have of all of us together singing the background. And it was a fun song to record. It was very easy. No, some songs are harder than others, to capture, but I didn't find it with that one. I was able to just get that one. Luckily, I'll knock wood.
Like you said, the bang bang and the lyrics, that it's a song that's not a real serious song, but it's a catchy song. I mean, it's a song that I remember the first time I heard it as a kid. I was 8 years old. Went out and bought the single. That was back in the day when really exciting time to be a kid in the 80s, because you go out and buy the single and
you could still buy 45s.
You could, and you'd save your money and you'd listen and you'd call it the radio, request it. So tell me about the video, because you're saying that in Goodbye to You, you got to be yourself, you're running around, that kind of thing. In this,
well, we did it ourselves, Then the label when the label gets involved, that's when bad shit happens. That's my motto. So they just brought in this French chick who I realized later must have really not liked me at all. Like, she cut all my hair off and, brought me to this hair guy and then made these costumes, and they all thought it was great. And I was sort of going along with it, like I said, because I thought it was going to sort of be cartoony or funny, or like tongue in cheek. And then it was just like deadly serious, and it's kind of dark and stuff, but
in 2013, I got inducted into the Songwriting Hall of Fame, and Patty Smyth ended up doing the Warrior, which was great because I was friends with Patty, and she ended up inducting me. But so we had to get together before, the event. We didn't have to. We wanted to. We hadn't seen each other in many years. And she's another New Yorker, so, we're cut from the same cloth. And we're sitting there, and she looks at me, she goes, okay. She goes, tell me the truth. And I said, okay. She goes, what did you think of the video to the Warrior? And I was like, I wasn't sure, like I wanted to be honest with her. She goes, I fucking hated it. Didn't you hate it? And I said, yes. She said, I don't know what it was. It's like the makeup artist got a hold of me, and all of a sudden I had this kabuki makeup on and this kimono, and all the guys in the band were wearing like these weird sort of outfits with the makeup, and they just kind of took control, and I just thought, again, Patty, she would have been great in just jeans and a T-shirt on a stage, instead of trying to make this whole cinematic thing, I tell you whose videos I've always loved are Tina Turner's. She, because a lot of them were performance videos.
The song itself, you run away. It's your heart that you betray, feeding on your hungry eyes. I bet you're not so civilized. I mean, the lyrics are so percussive and so good and juicy. Follow me, stereo jungle child. I mean, come on. Love is the kill, your heart's still wild. Those are great words. That's why when you hear it, as soon as that verse starts, to me, you're like, what? Like, that is some great, so for me, I think that's what's really strong. And then it is a huge chorus. I mean, even if it is shooting at the walls of heartache, it's a big ass anthem-y chorus. And the video to me was arduous. The guy was supposed to catch me. He sort of dropped me a little bit. I was on a trampoline and I leapt super high in the air, and the way that the cameraman shot it, you couldn't even see how high in the air I was. So for me, I just was like, who are these guys and why are they making me do this video? And so I remember going to my label and going, please don't put this out. Don't put it out. let's make another one. I'll pay for it. Let's make it. That was an expensive video. And of course, you know, you pay for it because it comes off out of you have to recoup it. But anyway, they just were like, no, they thought it was great. And I guess they were right because it was a very popular video. But what was interesting about that, and this was a thing where in your career, you see like, again, because I had all that makeup on and I'm not really in the video that much, I did not become more recognizable or more well-known as an artist as a result of having a huge hit record. And that was weird, but I noticed it. It was like, wow, you know, like people didn't almost kind of put the two together. You know, it was both videos and the way that I looked was so different. And so on one level, that was okay because a year later I had a kid and, you know, like I could go under the radar, and I've always liked to be able to go under the radar. I mean, I want to be recognized when I want to be recognized like everyone else, and I want to go under the radar when I want to go under the radar. But that definitely did not help my professional profile, if you know what I mean, because I wasn't recognizable. I mean, it was fun to see people dressed up as the Warrior at Halloween, I have to say that, and coming to my concerts, you know, that was great. But it's interesting to note that it didn't make it, it was almost like I was singing through a disguise in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and it's interesting, the connection of the Warriors, the movie, and then the Warrior, the song.
They've got one night. The Warriors.
It's been used in pop culture so much, especially lately with Glow. Love how they used it there. You probably thought that was pretty cool.
That was cool. But also every time, you know, I hear it so much at sporting events, and that's kind of fun too. It's either Goodbye to You or the Warrior, you know, like Goodbye to You when they're sending the losing team off, which is nice. And then it's the Warrior when they're winning.
It's become the new, like, na 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 na, say
goodbye. Yeah, exactly.
Pop culture, not only Glow, but the Goldbergs. And I think the reason, it's just a song that is etched in the culture of that year. 84, like I said, that was a big year. And to have a song that still stands out with the hundreds of songs from 84 that were huge. I mean, you think about, there were hundreds of songs in 84 that are still
You're right. I hadn't thought about it, but I feel like recently I went back and looked at the year and I was like, wow, like I had some stiff competition too, you know, to climb up to 7. Because I remember like recently I just was looking at that. I don't really look back at that stuff that much, but I was looking at, I think we must have been looking for a song or whatever.
84, I mean, Do They Know It's Christmas came out. Duran Duran was huge in 84. Madonna was just making her way up. I mean, Prince and Bruce Springsteen and Tina Turner's big comeback, and Michael Jackson, Thriller was still on the radar, and the Police Synchronicity was still. So, I mean, you talk about stiff competition, Billy Idol and Van Halen. I mean, everybody was at their peak at that moment. That was like the year that pop music peaked. So to still have a song that not only hit number 7 then, but is still like big now, that's huge.
I know, it's thank you. It's pretty awesome. I mean, I owe that. I've got to thank Holly and Nick Gilder for that. And it's funny because Nick Gilder, it's weird. I mean, I feel like I met him a million years ago.
Let's talk about The Warrior. You wrote it with Nick Gilder, of course, who had a #1 hit himself, Hot Child in the City.
Another great song.
Hot Child in the City.
That was a Mike Chapman production, I think. So he introduced us because he was my producer. And I guess I thought it was a woman. Like we never really talked about it. And I thought a woman was coming over to write because I thought Nick was a woman from his voice, you know, because he has a very high voice. And so I was kind of surprised when he walked in. And we wrote that song in one day. And I remember giving it to Mike because he was about to do Patty Smyth. We actually wrote it for her. He said he needed a song. We wrote it and we demoed it. And I still have the demo. I mean, it's Here's the thing, like most of the demos are very much the same, except that we don't have the luxury of going in a studio and getting like a incredible drummer and the best bass player and the best guitarist and the best engineer and having it mixed, all those sonic things. If you take those things away, our demo was pretty much the same. And I've always loved Nick's version of it because he's such a great singer. And I said, you got to put that out, on your own. So I sent it to Mike, and I don't know if he was like not in a listening mood that day or whatever, but he was sort of like, whatever. He didn't even really respond to it. He just said, yeah, I heard it. I had to really write something good. It wasn't like he automatically would take whatever I wrote. He turned more stuff down than not, But then he called me back like a few weeks later. He said, that song you sent me, The Warrior? He said, it's pretty good. He says, I want to cut it with Pattie. I was like, oh, really? That's great. I was so excited about that. And he said, in fact, you and I need to sit down and write a song for her too, for this record, which we did. We ended up writing a song called Hands Tied. Which is also one of my favorite songs. I think that song was a hit. I don't know why it wasn't, didn't do as well as it should have, but it's a great song. And anyway, so I told Nick, and Nick decided that he didn't want to give the song to Pattie. He wanted to keep it for himself because he didn't have a record deal, and he thought this would get him signed. And I said, well, that's all well and good for you, but the fact is you're not signed right now, and we wrote it for her. You can't do this. He just sort of said, I'm going to keep it. It's too good. And then Mike called him up and said, listen, mother, if she doesn't get to record it, you're not going to record it. So he had to give in, and she cut it. I mean, he says now that he's so happy.
I don't know if he wrote with her anymore, but that was a match made in heaven. But I remember now why I was looking at 84, because somebody asked for they were asking my favorite songs. And one of my favorite songs was What's Love Got to Do With It? I just thought that was a great Tina Turner song. I don't know why. I just love the way she sang it.
What's love got to do with it?
I mean, now, like the production's kind of weird. Like, you hear all that synth stuff that you didn't hear back in the day because everything had synth on it, kind of. But, she didn't really like that song that much either.
And then Cyndi Lauper as well. I mean, Time After Time, such a great song.
And unwind. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me.
Yeah, girls just want to have fun and Time After Time. Yeah, there were a lot of, it's true. That's another iconic record, and she sang her ass off. I remember her from Blue Angel. She was playing at the Ritz in a group called Blue Angel, which was the group she had before.
So I'm gonna be strong.
God, she was always a great performer and a great singer.
The Warrior, it also, not only is it such an iconic song, but again, the video, making its way through MTV. I remember that was on rotation like crazy there.
Oh, yeah.
You must have been in the makeup chair for a while with that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That might have been 2 days of that stuff, because then I had to put the big blue thing on through my hair.
It seems like people were really like influenced by Cats at that time, because you look at a lot of these videos from like 84 to 87.
Oh, my God. You are so right. And I hated Cats.
People were trying to do the Cats thing, and I'm like, I don't get it.
It's very Cats-like. I mean, the creatures that are... But, it would be interesting to see the outtakes of that, because the costumes and the makeup were incredible. And they should just do a video without me and that goofy guy and just all these creatures that like look to be coming out of the sewers and stuff. It was very like Les Miserables meets Cats.
It really was. I remember sharing urban legends as a kid about music. This is before the internet, so you didn't know if it was made up or not. You didn't have a place where you could go verify. But I remember the story going around about when David Lee Roth left Van Halen. And after Scandal dissolved, very interesting proposition when Eddie Van Halen asked you to replace David Lee Roth.
Do you know what year that was? 1984.
Right after, because they had a big album with 1984. It's their biggest selling album since their debut.
It's crazy. And then I had The Warrior come out. And then Valerie said, let's go see Scandal. I really like Patty Smyth. I like this girl singer, let's go see her. And he's like, okay. And so she brought him to the show and they came backstage. We played in LA and I'm like, you want to come play with us? And he's like, sure. And so he came out and he sat in with us, and then they got on the tour bus with us. I mean, no musicians do that. They don't get on other people's tour buses. They got on the bus with us for like 3 days and did some shows with us. We were doing a joint, thing with John Waite. And so he started asking me then, it was before I met my then husband, before I got pregnant. So he was talking about it, but I was pretty deep into Scandal at that point and having my hit record and sorting that out. We were staying in touch, and then he went back to LA. I was in New York and doing whatever. And then I got married in March. Timing is everything, And for me, I was a diehard New Yorker. I was 8 months pregnant. And he said, look, you got to let me know, if you can do it or not. Do you want to be in the band? And I was like, no, I don't think so. Like, just like that. Nope. Didn't even give it a thought.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about Patty Smyth and Holly Knight and this song from the golden year 1984. I consider it the greatest year in music. What do you think? Tell us below. Share a memory of the song. What do you think is Patty is the potential replacement in Van Halen? How would that have gone? Let's talk about that as well. There's so much to talk about. And make sure to subscribe if you like our content. We'd love to have you as part of the discussion every day. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Talk to you soon.